Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for coming tonight and buying tickets and paying the $4 service fee and finding parking. We always appreciate it. I am a Taurus cusping on Gemini, which means I tend to do things in kind of extremes. I worked on Wall Street, and then I taught yoga, and then I worked in a 911 center. It's really what everybody's career resume looks like. I also, maybe because I'm an avid swimmer and a synchronized swimmer for a long time, once I'm in something, I'm all in. I do not put my toe in the water. I don't peek my head around the door. I have plenty of anxiety, so it takes me a while to decide to do something. But when I do it, I am cannonball into the deep end. I am ready for this. And so part of that is that it's hard to know when you should leave, right? Leavings are harder than beginnings. And so I had what I thought was a really great job. I worked on Wall Street in this sea of like 300 men who were, 298 of them were really handsome. And I loved it. And I was making like 30 cents on the dollar to them. It was the 90s. And there was this kind of miasma on the trading desk of ambition and testosterone and privilege and really a lot of chauvinism and misogyny. And I realized when I got to 30, I was like, this kind of sucks. And I had just gotten married, and then the misogyny kind of jacks up because at the time people were like, well, we're not going to hire a married woman to work on a trading desk because that would be horrible. And so I really wanted a clean start, because again, I'm in, I'm out, I'm in the deep end, or I'm running for the next thing. And so my husband at the time was like, yeah, let's ditch city life, right? Let's go out. So we bought this little quaint 200-year-old cottage, and it was on 2 acres in Connecticut, and I was so ready. And the thing is, the chauvinism was still there in Connecticut. It was more of an artisanal 1950s chauvinism, which had me really shocked, frankly. So simple things like, my chimney is crumbling, can you fix it? And the guy's like, well, gotta talk to your husband about that. Okay, and then I went and I got glasses once, and the guy's like giving me this whole speech, they're custom, no returns, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, hey, are you married? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, you know what? We have a married ladies exclusion. If you get home and your husband doesn't like the way it looks on you, you can return them. And I said, what if I get home and I don't like them? And he said, well, no, there's no returns then. I'm not making any of this up, by the way. And then I had a plumber once because I had this weird, it was a 300-year-old house. There was weird stuff all the time, and there was like this little pin drop misting, like at the vegetables, but in my creepy basement. And this guy is standing here with like his, Bud Light back cap, and he's standing under the leak, and it's dripping onto his little chauvinistic baseball cap, and he says to me, I don't see a problem, ma'am. So I say to my mother, this is ridiculous, this is horrible, this is like, it's almost 1999, this is horrible. And she goes, just tell them your husband's mad. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. You sent me to college, I have a brain, I worked on a trading desk, no. So she's like, okay, prove me wrong. So I called the plumber back, still wearing his little wet hat, and I said, my husband's gonna be so mad if I don't have this fixed by dinner. And he said, I'm on it. And he came and he fixed it. Which my husband was like, that's great. And I'm like, it's not the point. So then I realize, in addition to that I'm maybe not in a great marriage. And I say to him, in only the way that a first world privileged woman could say, we only had one car because we wanted to, I had to drive him like a wife everywhere. And I said, I really want to divorce you, but I can't even leave the house because you always have the car. You've trapped me in a little cottage. So because he loved me, he went out and he bought me an SUV. Which was nice. It wouldn't have been my choice, but whatever. It was pre-owned. Fine. So I go and I get it, and then the car, the SUV, kind of becomes like I could actually leave. Like, I don't actually have to still live here, right? And so then I go to open the hatch, which is why you get an SUV in the first place. And, there's like a metal bumper. I don't know what it's going to call. I'm going to call it the little rubber thing. There was a little bump. And so you couldn't open the hatch because of this bump. So I go to the car dealership, and the guy says, well, your car's pretty dirty, ma'am. If you clean it more, it'll open. So we do this several more times. Finally, the guy says, my regional manager's coming in. Why don't you bring your husband in? So I bring my husband in. And they start talking to each other like I'm not there. Have you told your wife to clean the car? Well, she's stubborn. Ha, ha, ha. And now, I'm building all of this up. I'm trying to give you my good street cred, because really what happens next is that he points and he says, the first time he acknowledges me, pardon my language, ma'am, but there is bird shit on your bumper. And if you just cleaned your car, we wouldn't have this problem. And so I'm blind, really, with like 12 years of rage. And so I spit on the bird shit. I'm sorry, I'll go fast. I spit on the bird shit, but I don't have anything to clean the bird shit off of the spit. So I take his necktie. And he starts having some trouble breathing. I do believe I'm still banned from most Mitsubishi dealerships on the East Coast. Realized even if my hatch didn't open, it still drove. And so I, in 2003, got in my SUV with the bumper that didn't open, and I drove to Seattle, and I've been here ever since.